Hey, I'm back, and with me, another speed art. This one is of old Venom. Now, Venom has changed a lot over the years, and since I just released his animated evolution on my main channel, I want to go through and rank each version of Venom for you guys today. So let's go through them from worst to first. And coming in 12th place for me is Gamma Venom. Now this is a Venom that appeared in the Hulk and the Agents of Smash show, and I think it's kind of a strange interpretation of him. This is kind of a spin-off of the Ultimate Spider-Man version of him, which I also wasn't a huge fan of, but yeah, this is just kind of a strange, like, unwieldy, kind of like monster version of him that doesn't really have much of a personality of his own, because it attaches to so many of the different Hulk variants that then, you know, form together and create this like weird, ungangly kind of monster. Plus, I felt like the animation for him was kind of strange in this episode. So, like, I don't know, it's not really like Venom, because it's not even an alien from outer space. It's something that Dr. Ock has created, and yeah, it just doesn't really have much of a personality of its own, and his voice is just the worst. And on the same coin as that, coming in 11th place is going to be the Ultimate Spider-Man Venom. So this is the same kind of Venom as the Hulk show, but this one appears in almost the whole, like, I think every season in the Ultimate Spider-Man show. And it just, again, it doesn't have much of a personality because it's not an alien from space. It's just like a goo that Dr. Octopus has created, and it attaches to like so many different people that it's just not really a character at all. Now, that's not, you know, it's cool that they try to do something different with it. I just feel like it doesn't really help that much with it. And I guess like the coolest interpretation in the show is you finally get an on-screen version of Agent Venom. But even still, like, I feel like Agent Venom is not really, you know, it's not really Venom. It's more like Flash Thompson with a little bit of Venom on him that just gives him powers. So it's just not really like Venom to me. And coming in 10th place is Avengers Assemble Venom Dracula. Now this is a strange interpretation of both Dracula and Venom. I always forget that Dracula is a part of the Marvel Universe in some storylines. And this version of Venom, again, it doesn't really feel like Venom. It feels more like Dracula just using the Venom symbiote. But although I think in this universe it is explained that it is an alien, although I'm not sure where Avengers Assemble and like what shows that connects to, but it just doesn't really feel like Venom to me. And this storyline is only in one episode and it doesn't even get like resolved. So, you know, maybe they would have done something cooler with it if the show had gone on. But I think they had like 5 seasons and they only appeared in one episode in it. So, you know, they had the chance, and this is not a great interpretation of either Venom or Dracula as far as I'm concerned. So, I don't know, maybe it's a skip from me. Okay, so maybe this is a version that probably shouldn't even be on this list, but coming in 9th place is Phineas and Ferb's Venom. Now, this is actually a pretty accurate version of Venom as far as like design goes, and of course it looks like the Phineas and Ferb style, but it looks like a comic accurate Venom for the most part. And what's cool about this character is that it's voiced by Danny Trejo. He's amazing. He's in the Halloween reboot. He's in just like everything. He's in Breaking Bad. He's Machete. He's a freaking legend, and for some reason he voices Venom. I think he only says a couple lines in the show, but for that reason he's better than the last 3. But I can't put it any higher because, you know, it's just a little Marvel crossover for Phineas and Ferb. But it's an interesting version of Venom, and it wasn't too bad as a little show. You guys should check out Phineas and Ferb. It's kind of funny. I haven't really watched much of it. I hear it's pretty funny. So yeah, and on to the next one. And coming in 8th place is going to be Spider-Man 3's Venom. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think Topher Grace was kind of miscast as Eddie Brock. I know he was kind of supposed to be like the yin and yang to this Peter Parker here, but I just think that he's just not physically imposing, and his Venom is, too, also not really physically imposing. And I feel like they didn't really do much comic accuracy here. Like, it's okay to like kind of veer away from the source material, but like this version of him is just like comes across as kind of weak, and you just don't get that much screen time with this Venom. So even if they had spent a little bit more time with him, maybe it would have been a little bit better, but it just seems like a tacked on, rushed on thing, because there's so many other villains in this Spider-Man 3 that I think he just gets lost in the shuffle. And you can tell that Sam Raimi is not really into like the modern day villains. He's more into like Sandman, Green Goblin, and Doc Ock, like the classic villains, and even like the New Goblin. So Venom just felt so shoehorned in. And although I do like some of the black suit stuff that Peter Parker goes through with the dance moves, I don't mind Spider-Man 3. I just kind of like it as a movie. But I feel like this version of Venom kind of just drags the movie down a little bit. And coming in 7th place is going to be Marvel Disc Wars Venom. This is a strange interpretation of Venom, although I think it's still pretty interesting, and its bulkiness is very imposing. Of course, it has to be pretty bulky because it's attached to the Hulk here. I guess early in the episode it was attached to Spider-Man, or the episode previously. So when it attaches to Hulk, he becomes more like his Venom self, whereas it's just black suit Spider-Man with Spider-Man. And this version, you know, he doesn't really talk, although I'm not even sure if this version of Hulk really talks that much. This show, I just watched this one episode, but this show seems like completely nuts. I'm not sure if anyone has watched the English version of it, or the Japanese version, or whatever, but it's just like a strange anime. It's almost like Digimon meets Marvel, or Pokemon meets Marvel. It's an interesting interpretation, and yeah, this Venom is, I think, mostly is higher up on this list because I kind of like the look of him. But it's not an amazing like characterization of him, and he doesn't really seem like his alien self. I'm not even sure where this goo came from in this episode, but like either way, I think it's kind of a cool look for him. And coming in 6th place is Guardians of the Galaxy Venom from the TV series. Now this is more or less in the same universe as the Marvel 2017 animated series for Spider-Man, but for some reason, I don't know, like, they changed the design of what this Venom looks like completely when it attaches to Spider-Man, because I don't know, it just doesn't really work here. It kind of looks like a little bit more friendly, a little more tall, not as brutish. It's just kind of strange, and just for the sake of this episode, he's kind of being controlled by, I don't know, like a Carnage infused Thanos or something. So like that's why his eyes glow bright red every now and then, because like that's when he's being evil. So, but when his eyes aren't being bright red, Spider-Man's apparently able to like control Venom to be a good person, which just doesn't really add up with what the 2017 show actually has. Although this is an episode of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think they just kind of wanted to shoehorn that it's a part of the same universe. So maybe, you know, you get a couple people watching it because, oh, Spider-Man's showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy or something. But yeah, this doesn't really work for me 100%. But it's not the worst version of him. I think it's like a nice like black goo looking version at least. It's just kind of a strange episode. In 5th place, kind of in the same universe as the last one, is the Marvel Spider-Man 2017 cartoon Venom. Now, this is kind of a strange because it like attaches to Flash Thompson first, and then it attaches to Eddie Brock, and then it attaches to Max Modell. Each version has slight variants to it, although they're more or less the same Venom. I think it's just kind of growing stronger and stronger with each person that it kind of connects to, and eventually he like opens up a portal and lets all of his weird symbiote brothers and sisters come into like our universe, and it results in a big fight or whatever. And like the last season is like not all about Venom, but it's like a lot of the episodes revolve around the symbiotes and them trying to take over the world and stuff. It's not a bad interpretation of the characters. It does a pretty good job of the source material, and I kind of like this look of Venom. It's kind of like he looks a little swole maybe, and like but I kind of like how he looks pretty brutish, and like his head is like kind of like low down on his torso a lot of times, so it looks like he's like hunching over, and it just like seems like an alien, which I think is a good interpretation for Venom. Coming in 4th place is going to be the Spider-Man Unlimited Venom. Now this is a strange series. It's kind of like a bit of a sequel to the 1994 animated Spider-Man series, but at the same time it's not really a sequel. The designs are different. It's just kind of like the first episode takes place on Earth, and then he goes off into like a different counter Earth. So like you can like read into it. It's like, is this the same Peter Parker or not? There's like flashback scenes of this Peter Parker like attaching to the Venom symbiote as if it was like from the 1994 series, although designs have changed to like match what they look like in this show. So like it's trying to be a sequel while still trying to be its own thing. But either way, I like this interpretation of Venom still. It's very like, it's extremely like monstrous, and like it's like everything that the other version from 1994 is not. Although, you know, I don't love how monstrous it is. It's just maybe it goes a little far in some places. But I think it's like a cool interpretation for like this like almost like extreme like late 90s show. Although the story, you don't really finish the story here, you only get like 13 episodes, and he's in quite a few of them actually, Venom. But yeah, they just didn't get picked up for a second season, so like a lot of the storyline that was gonna like go into a lot of the symbiote storyline just never wrapped up or finished or anything. Although it's like still worth checking out. It's a very interesting show for Spider-Man. And coming in 3rd place is going to be the Spectacular Spider-Man Venom. Now, this is a interesting version of Venom because this version of Eddie Brock in this show was best friends with Peter Parker since his childhood. So when he becomes Venom and starts like really messing up Peter Parker's life, it kind of like, it means a bit more, I think, than when typically it's just like an enemy from the Bugle starts, being his enemy of Spider-Man. It just, this adds a bit more of a layer to it. Although, like, I don't love the designs in this show as much as like some of the other versions that I haven't even like crossed this list already. But I think like for like the storyline, this version is definitely one of the stronger ones. Okay, and coming in at second place, probably ones that actually I've seen like mixed reviews on this one, but I think it's actually pretty good, is the Venom 2018 live action version and its 2021 version as well. I think it's kind of an interesting take. It's like obviously more campy and goofy than some of these even cartoon versions, but I think that it kind of works for like what the tone of the movies are going for. His like look is like really good, although the veins are a little much maybe, but I think they just kind of added those because they just didn't have the right to use Spider-Man, or maybe, I guess they would have had the right, but like they didn't want to use Spider-Man in this universe because Spider-Man's being used in the MCU right now, and they wanted to do their own thing with Venom. So it's kind of like they were like, okay, I guess we can just toss some veins in instead of his like white spider emblem. So that hurts the design a little bit, but I think more or less this is a really good interpretation of Venom. I think Tom Hardy does an amazing job as Eddie Brock, and when he and like Venom are fighting, it's like a really good odd couple situation. So yeah, I think this is a really good version of Venom, that if you've been like kind of like on the fence about checking it out, I think it's actually, the first movie is actually pretty good, and I think this latest one is just as good, if not like a little bit better even. So yeah, check this version out. And coming in at number 1 is going to be Spider-Man the Animated Series Venom from 1994. Now this version of him has kind of almost been like the template for like all of his versions going forward. Obviously this is based on the comic books, but I think that they do a really good job with it here. I think this Eddie Brock is even like kind of imposing, and his Venom is like equally imposing to Spider-Man. And like I didn't really love like the red and blue highlights when I was younger, but like now that I kind of understand that it's kind of like almost a reference to Peter Parker and Spider-Man, it's like red and blue, that it kind of makes sense to me. And yeah, I think just like it's not like too overly like huge. Like Eddie Brock in the show is already pretty imposing and big, so like Venom like is a little bit bigger than him, but like he's not like gigantic, he's not like a monster, but like he's definitely imposing to this version of Spider-Man. And I think like the Venom saga, I think they call it, like, I think it's like 5 or 6 episodes in this show, is actually a really good little, watch. The last 2, if you're just watching these episodes, the last 2 do add in a lot of like other ancillary characters for Spider-Man that you'll be like, I don't really know who this character is or what they're doing here. But I think more or less you can watch it as like a little series, and it works pretty well. So yeah, if you're looking for Venom to watch, I think you should start with this film from 2018, as well as the animated show from 1994. Those are 2 very good versions, and the Spectacular Spider-Man version is very well done as well. So that is my ranking for all of the Venoms. Feel free to leave your own ranking below, and if you haven't seen it, check out the newest video on Taylor and Emily going through Venom's evolution. And I also want to thank some patrons who have pledged recently. That includes Caleb Woods and Alvin Moe. If you're out there, thank you very much for your help. And until next time, I've been Aaron, and I'll tell you something later.